Here we go. Welcome, everyone, to the Champions. Now, here's your host, former Dallas Cowboys great Preston Pearson, number 26, along with co-host Cowboys superfan Nathan Ross. Here we go. Here we go.
Well, here we go. Welcome to episode 17 of the Champions. Welcome, everybody. Today, we're kicking off what we're calling our Unsung Dallas Cowboy Greats, or better yet, Unsung Greats overall. And today, we have two of the Dallas Cowboys' greatest ever tight ends. I'll introduce them in one moment. Before I do that, let me introduce my co-host, Nathan Ross, California man who is a longtime loyal Dallas Cowboy fan. And even before we get into a conversation, I want to show you guys a picture. If you will bring that up.
Wow.
It shows the loyalty of Nathan
What a
Ross.
day that was. Yes, sir.
With one of our guests from, where is that? Oxnard, California,
Yes,
right?
it was. Yes, it sure is, Preston.
Jay, were you visiting back then? I think he was visiting back then because he had retired. That was about 10 years ago?
Yeah, it was about 9 years ago when Michael Irvin came out and he was at there. Jay was there also, and I'm gonna tell you what, they have a great time. When you see Jay Novacek and Michael Irvin together, be ready to have some laughs and some smiles because they just uplifted that day. I can remember it like yesterday.
A good shot, Jay. Looks like he could play
Sure
right
does.
now, right?
He sure does.
Well, let me go ahead and introduce my special guest today, the unsung greats from the tight end position. Two of the greatest ever. Billy Joe
Yes.
Dupree, number 89. I have to point
Yes,
that
sir.
out. And the Hat Man. He looks like he's playing on the television series Yellowstone, right?
Yes, he sure does.
Number 84, Jay Novacek. Welcome, guys,
What's up,
to the
Jay?
Champions Podcast. We appreciate your
Legendary
time.
players.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I couldn't quite hear either one of you. Hopefully, we're not having any problems with our sound or anything. Can you guys?
We just have a low. We just have a low voice at this time. We'll pick it up.
You sound great.
All right. And let me kind of say this. When I say unsung, I don't mean that they weren't appreciated. They were.
Right.
A lot of these guys, both of these gentlemen have been retired for, let's just say, over 25 years, right? So they have garnered some accolades from the time that they retired. But they are still, in my opinion, the definition of unsung. They are uncelebrated. Both of them should be much more celebrated. Ring of Honor, Ring of Honor, Ring of Honor. Do you hear that? Do you hear that? They are guys that should have been praised from day one after they retired through now. They don't get it. I'm surprised. So we're going to start with that as our unsung Dallas Cowboy greats. And we're going to start with scenes and concepts from high school, college, and into the pros. And we're going to talk about the present-day Dallas Cowboys and get their thoughts about the collegiate level. So let's kick things off by going to Billy Joe Dupree's hometown and high school. And we'll go back and forth. That is Billy Joe Dupree's hometown area. I think that's Monroe, Louisiana, and he was born and raised in West Monroe. Is that correct, Billy Joe?
Yeah, the only difference is the river that separates the two. One's east side, one is just Monroe. So we're in the West Monroe, and the other one wouldn't call themselves East Monroe. They just call them Monroe.
Gotcha.
And Billy Joe went to Richardson High School. We get a chance to take a quick peek at his high school football team. What's your number in this picture, BJ?
Oh, that's kind of difficult. I don't know the year, but it should be. It's either 88 or 89.
But you were playing a two-way tackle at that time, right? Or were you? Is it your senior year as a tight end?
Well, yeah, I only played. I started at tight end in my junior year. I believe is what it was. Well, it may have been my senior year, but as a junior, because I only started as a sophomore as a junior, so it must have been my senior year. So I've only worn number 80, 89, as far as I know. It's either 88 or 89. I think it's 89. I went to Michigan State with 89 and came to the Cowboys with 89.
And Preston, did he tell you that when in his sophomore year that it was a guy, literally he was talking to a girl, some other guy's girl, because he loved basketball so much. And then he talked to this girl, and this guy called him a wussy, but he played on the football team. That's what brought him out to the football field to get him from basketball over to football, was talking to that girl. And luckily he did talk to her because it made him come into football. Is that true, Billy Joe?
Yeah, pretty much so. And it just was that the guy thought that the girl was his girl, but the girl wasn't anybody's girl. She just happened to be in my homeroom and was a little bit smarter than I was in that subject matter. So I was sitting on free time and let her tutor me. So, but this guy, I think if I could, just let me just share this right quick with you.
Sure.
We go to that deal at school at the break for our classes. It's in the gym, so we finished that gym. Bell rings. I go to the locker room where I had stored my books, and the locker was at the end of the row. The big guy who had all the problems or concerns about came in at the end of the row and looked down the aisle and said, "What you doing talking to my girlfriend?" I wanted to get crazy with it, but I didn't. I said, "That's not true." He said, "Yeah, that's my girlfriend. If you play football, I'll beat the crap out you." I said, "Oh, okay."
Wow.
I went to class. I went to get my books, and the coach was standing there around the corner while this conversation was going on. Didn't see him. The big guy left, and I started out the deal. Coach comes around the corner. He said, "Yeah, you're a big wuss." So about a week later, I decided to sign up, because that kind of ticked me off.
Sure, I can imagine.
Yeah, but let me just finish with this one last thing. I put on my gear, get all my gear, not knowing what football gear is all about, and everything was a little crazy. My first drill was that bull in the ring drill.
Sure.
And coach line puts the circle around, calls me into the ring. Then he calls the big guy in the ring. I said, "Oh, this ought to be a piece of cake. I'm a basketball player. My feet are always kept moving, so I'm going to just push him down." Well, snap the ball. We meet at the impasse. I happen to be lower than he was, and I pinned him. I get up and go back to the back of the huddle, and I started seeing little flashes of stars in my eyes. So I cover my right eye. Left eye is okay. Cover my left eye. Right eye is as blind as a bat. What I did was pinch my optic nerve.
Oh, boy.
Because I got lower than he was, and I actually pinned him to the ground and made my point there. So now it's got this deal with my eye, and I'm saying, well, somebody's got to pay for this. I'm not quitting now. So from that point on, my battle of vengeance for defense primarily, to play defense, that the offensive players didn't really stand a chance after that.
Right. Well, all of that probably got you to Michigan State, right?
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yeah. It certainly did, because I caught my first pass as a tackle eligible pass my junior year.
And there you are.
They ran the wishbone back then too, didn't they, Billy Joe? They ran the wishbone at Michigan State at that time.
No, this was in high school. Michigan State was a whole different deal.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Michigan State was a whole different deal. I mean, I caught more passes in 1 year than I caught in 4 years at Michigan State.
Wow.
because they were a run-oriented type offense,
Sure.
and that was their major feature. And the Cowboys actually drafted me as a blocker more than a passer. And then when they got me here, they anticipated, expected, maybe we can move him to wide receiver. But I love to play in that deal. And the photo you got on the deal now is myself and Brad Van Pelt. We were the last two co-captains of Duffy Daugherty in his career. And that was the last year we played.
You didn't play with an old teammate of mine. I think he was a little bit before you, Bubba Smith.
No, I didn't play with Bubba. Bubba was a year, I think 2 years, maybe a year or 2 years before I got there. I was sitting down talking to Duffy, and he started talking and said, "What do you like to do?" I said, "Coach, I think I could help the team. Only thing I'm looking for is a chance to get an education and an opportunity to play football for you." He said, "Well, that's all ain't good, because that group in '66, they took all the money with them. We don't have any more money."
Well,
So
you
that's
wound up
66.
making the 50 greatest players at Michigan State U, and that
Yes.
includes a lot of great players, including Bubba Smith. So congratulations on a great high school and obviously college level
Yes, sir.
football. Congratulations to you on that. Now, we get to the gentleman sitting next to you. We'll get back to you. Hold on. Jay Novacek, high school. Went to Gothenburg High School, the Gothenburg Swedes. I'd like to know where that came from.
That's
Well,
interesting.
it was actually it was founded by people from Sweden, and so they call it Gothenburg, and the quote sister city is
Yeah.
Gothenburg, Sweden.
Well, while there, you were an all-around athlete, and we'll get to some of the
Wow,
accolades.
look at that.
Basketball player who had wound up being all-state. I'm assuming that was in your senior year. Looks like pretty young there. But
Were you a forward or a center in basketball, Jay?
Well, I was a 6'4" center.
Nice. That's pretty normal for schools. 6'4" center.
well, here's the one that I marvel at. Jay Novacek
Jeez. Look at that.
in high
athleticism.
school was a pole vaulter, and that
Jeez.
I think is the picture where he set the record at 15'1", I think. 15 foot 1 inches. Is that correct, Jay?
Yes, it is. Actually, the town of Gothenburg had a very good track program throughout the years, and it was 15 feet half inch from a guy from Gothenburg a year older than me, and that was my junior year, and I broke it that year at 15 feet 1 inches. And then my younger brother, I think he went 15.8 or something.
Wow.
No wonder he's so agile running routes and doing that, Preston. Jeez, look how athletic.
Well, from all of that work done and on the high school level, the different sports, he was inducted into the Nebraska High School Hall of Fame.
Wow, that is cool.
It shows you
Yeah,
his.
that was that's pretty special deal. My dad was he's inducted to it. Our family actually is inducted to it, with Dad being a coach forever, and then my older brother and my younger brother, they were all both great athletes, and so our family got inducted to it, and that was pretty special.
That is,
Well,
Jay. Very cool.
That was special. However, I believe the most special of your athletic endeavors came in, most difficult sport, and that was while you were at University of Wyoming and the decathlon. How in the world did you get into that?
I've always said that, all other sports help you become a better football player, and football doesn't help you become better at any other sport. And it was very important to me, to be able to go to a school that would let me run both track and field and play football. And basically Wyoming was that place. And you know, for me, it was a perfect spot.
So track and field, football, nothing else? No basketball at Wyoming?
No, actually, Jim Brandenburg was our coach, and Wyoming had a really good basketball team year in, year out. And every year he would ask if I would come out for the team, but I couldn't do all three.
And Preston, at Wyoming, he had his senior year 22.6 catch average is what he did. And Jay, were you a tight end at that time, or were you a wide receiver getting this 22.6 yards per catch?
My senior year, I was a tight end. My sophomore year, I started as tight end. Junior year, went to wide receiver, and then my senior year moved back to tight end. And I started out there. We ran the wishbone.
So how did you get from? You were in high school. You were a quarterback in high school.
Yeah.
So
I was a quarterback, and we didn't have enough players to really fill backfield with the wishbone, so we ended up just doing a veer type.
Option veer.
Ran the triple option all the time. So and then at Wyoming they recruited me as a wishbone quarterback.
So you weren't quite Troy Aikman with throwing the football.
No, he was.
The problem was when there was one time I think Rodney Pete was our backup, and Troy got hurt, and I think the third string was kind of hurt too. So I was number 2. I was one play away from being an NFL quarterback, which was probably
Babe Rothenberg, maybe Babe Rothenberg or somebody was hurt, and you had to get it. Wow.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Exactly. Wait. Jay, wait a minute.
Listen, now it was a very good thing that Rodney did not get hurt, because if I would have been in, then we would have had this big quarterback controversy with Troy and I.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Okay. If that's what you want us to believe. Okay.
He might have been tight end. We had to Troy tight end.
Well, say, it's the truth, though.
It's the truth. Okay. We'll let you slide on that one.
Here's the deal, though. If it would have been when Barry was our coach, then
Barry Switzer,
I would have taken over, because Barry would have liked me better as a triple.
He might have, yeah. Considering where he came from, Oklahoma, with all of those quarterbacks. Well, Troy played up there at Oklahoma. So.
And Oklahoma was my favorite team, my favorite college team when I was growing up, and I was.
Oh, really?
And so when we went when OU was playing Lincoln one time, Nebraska in Lincoln, got a coach got me in, and I ended up having a breakfast with Barry, and he kind of came in, he looked at me, and he up and down, 6'4" and skinny. I weighed 180 pounds. And he was like, here's how Barry gave his recruiting talk. He said, Jay, we got a great football program. We got great looking girls. We got a great team, Jay. Great looking girls. We got good academics and great looking girls.
I believe it. Barry will speak to you straight up. We had him on the show about 2-3 weeks ago, and I'll tell you, awesome. The first time I've had a guest that had multiple 4-letter words, but he was speaking from the heart and telling you just exactly how it was. So certainly appreciate it, Coach. NIL, yeah, there you go. Okay, got to go back to BJ real quick here.
Yes.
I saw something on the internet that I didn't quite believe, so I'm going to ask you. There's a gentleman by the name of Tyler Dupree who plays English rugby, and it said underneath his photo that he was the great nephew of the Cowboys tight end Billy Joe Dupree. Is that true?
That could be true.
It could be. What do you mean? What do you mean it could be true?
I have no idea what my two younger brothers have been doing.
Well, that's a good look at him. That's
He looks like a
him.
football player right there. Those rugby players.
Yeah.
I have to have my son do some research on that because he likes going right now.
Well, it's Tyler Dupree, so have him check that out.
Yeah, Steve, it's sort of like Marcus Dupree. When I go places and say, "Your name Dupree?" Hey, we just live here in Oklahoma. I said, no. I only visit Oklahoma. I didn't go to school there. That was Marcus Dupree. He was just a cousin of mine. I said, oh, yeah, we thought you looked a little different. Well, I guess so.
I guess so.
Some of the things that happen to players that we just didn't know about. Okay, back to you, Mr. Novacek. You get drafted, 6th-round draft choice, right?
Yes.
Of the St. Louis Cardinals, right? Who was the coach then? Was that Hannafin or Bugle?
Jim Hannafin.
Jim Hannafin.
And he was classic. He was awesome.
He wasn't Tom Landry, was he?
No.
He wasn't Jimmy Johnson either, was he? He wasn't Barry Switzer either.
He's closer to Barry than about anybody.
Okay. BJ, you were drafted by the Cowboys as the number 1 draft choice for the Cowboys, right?
Yes, sir.
You had a stellar football career at Nebraska. Excuse me.
No,
I'm
Michigan
sorry.
State, yeah.
Michigan's
Well,
at Michigan.
Nebraska, but I didn't go there.
At Michigan
Man.
State. I didn't
That
ask.
warrior right there.
I didn't ask you why you chose Michigan State, being from Louisiana. What was that all about?
Well, that's a long story, but I'm going to try to make it short as possible.
Okay.
I left high school. My primary concern was to find some place I can get into continued education. Either go to the military or go to college. Initial thought was, hey, I'm going to the Air Force and learn how to fly airplanes. Then I visited the first college campus, and they were all small colleges at the time because we were smaller schools. And Oral Roberts was probably the first in basketball. And then I went to Iowa, and went to the University of Houston, Guy Lewis for basketball, and Oral Roberts for basketball, Michigan State and Iowa for football, and normally the HBCs in Louisiana was Grambling and Southern. Well, what created the situation in Michigan State is that I felt that if I went to school close to home, I never finished school because I'll be up and down the highway back and forth to
Back and
house.
forth home, yeah.
Well, that was the reason for the military. So the military kind of got snuffed out when I visited was one of those college campuses I visited. Didn't visit about 5, but one of them I visited. They had some of the best looking women on the planet in it.
Here we go back to these women.
Hey, man.
I said, hey, forget about that military. I'm going to college someplace. And the reason I didn't go to Iowa and what I was looking for was a coach who was more interested in developing people as opposed to collecting warm bodies. And the only 2 coaches out of the few that I visited with that had that concept was Eddie Robinson out of Grambling and Duffy Doherty at Michigan State. And then in that process, what kind of helped develop that is what I visited with Eddie Robb. Coach took me down, had an injury in high school, took me down to Grambling for treatment. He had a treatment, went and visited Rob, sit down and talk to Rob and Coach Robinson. And one of the questions said, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? Or something like that. I can't remember the exact words. I said, Coach, I think I can help the team and just get an education. He said, son, and he said, what do you want to do? This is Eddie Robinson. He said, what do you want to know? Help the team. He said, no, son, what I'm asking you is, what do you want to do with your life? I said, well, I want to be a civil engineer. Coach Rod ran back in his chair because he was sitting there with his knees on, with his elbows on the desk. He said, son, you got to find another place because we don't have civil engineering here. Well, that didn't dawn on, the comment didn't dawn on what had transpired in that conversation till a couple of days later. And it appeared to me that Coach Rob was more interested in developing the collect warm bodies. And I say that from understanding Duffy's deal was that he was way up front, thing, have anything to offer but a chance to get an education and play football.
Yeah.
In that process. So what I was trying to eliminate was the kidnap me and hold me for ransom type deal. We'll do this for the family and we'll do this. And as Barry indicated before, now it's legal. Then it wasn't legal. So under those circumstances, if you didn't follow through with everything that they wanted you to do, regardless of whether you could do it or not, then they want to go and say, well, guy's taking money under the table. We need to get rid of him. So I wanted to eliminate that possibility because that would have interrupted my education.
Well, if you had the NIL program back then, you'd have been fine. You'd have been right in the middle of everything. So, Jay, why did you choose Wyoming? I know it's right on the border there, Nebraska, Wyoming, and all of that. What was your reasoning for choosing the Cowboys? I mean, you're the Cowboys, Cardinals, Cowboys, and you're a Cowboy.
Yep, he sure is.
One of the reasons definitely was they allowed me to play, run both track and field and play football. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it was very, very important to me. They ran the wishbone. Like I said, I was one of them wishbone quarterbacks in high school. Which was kind of funny because everybody wants to be a quarterback, when you got all the freshmen in there and you got 7 or 8 quarterbacks. And back then the WAC conference is what they were in. Wyoming and chumps, by the way, is what that means. And
wow, I never heard that.
Yeah.
Wyoming and chumps.
And I love that.
But that conference was the main passing conference in the United States, and Air Force and Wyoming were the only ones that really didn't throw the ball a bunch. Mm-hmm. So I got bored, sitting as a freshman and mm-hmm. watching them, all the other freshmen take their turns as quarterback, and then it'd be my turn, and then go on. So I got bored, so I was like, well, I'll just go run routes. And so I ended up running routes, and next thing I knew, I was on varsity as a wide receiver.
There you go.
Thank goodness for us.
There you go. And then because of all of that route running and being selected by the Cardinals, you had a quarterback up there with the Cardinals as a tight end that kind of got you the ball at times. Neil Lomax.
He is a good quarterback, guys.
Yeah.
Neil was tough, very smart, and a great quarterback. And unfortunately, with his hip problem, he ended up not being able to go as long as he should.
Yeah.
But Neil was fantastic.
Did you ever have a chance while you were there as a St. Louis Cardinal to run into a former Dallas Cowboy tight end for a moment, Jackie Smith, one of the greatest tight ends that I'd ever seen play the game? Did you ever have a chance to run into him? I know he was well before you, but
I met him the first time, the only time, actually when I was with the Cowboys, and he handed me an award that I won of some point. I don't even remember what it was, but I remember Jackie meeting him, and oh man, what a unbelievable tight end.
Yeah.
Was Otis Anderson still there at that time, or did he just leave to the Giants? Or did you get to see Otis?
Yeah, Otis and I played together. Stump Mitchell was also in the background.
Yes.
Otis was the Cardinals that we had at that time. It was such great personnel. I mean, they just across the board,
should have done a lot better with that personnel for sure. I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree. Can you explain what the so-called Plan B free agency was all about? That's how you wound up in Dallas with the Cowboys, right? I still can't figure out what that thing was all about.
Okay, so with all the strike, had that strike in '87, and so they came up with, one of the big deals with the NFL was, once you're drafted by a team, you're there. Someone even said, you die and come back, you still got to pay for that.
Got it. That's right. They own you.
So
Yeah, that's right.
That's
we
funny,
wanted free
Jay.
agents. And so they came up with Plan B free agency. So each team could protect like 33 players, 37 players, I can't remember exactly, on that team. And then
37.
there was the roster back then was 48 or 9 maybe. And so those other players were put on Plan B free agency, the ones that you didn't protect, and they were able to go out and basically be a free agent. So yeah, they put that on me. And if you kind of remember back then, the that was back in '89, after the '89 season when they put me on Plan B free agency, and that was right when Jerry Jones that year. Jerry and Jimmy came in, bought the team. That whole thing. They were 1-15, and back then the Cardinals, we were what you'd call a sorry team. And so the only team that offered me a contract was the Cowboys.
Really?
So
the only team?
I was one of the sorriest players on one of the sorriest teams, and the only team offered me a contract was the sorriest team in the NFL. So
Ouch, that hurts.
How's this going to work?
Where is this
Yeah,
coming
we were
from?
bad that year.
So the coaching staff here and the ownership was Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones, right? That got you. Somebody in that twosome knew what the hell they were doing. Plan B was, as far as I could remember about it, was so screwed up. Eventually, it got to where it is now. They just call it free agency, not Plan B free agency. Plan B. I don't know what the hell Plan B was supposed to be about, but they got rid of it pretty quickly. Okay. So now we know a little bit more about you guys from a high school standpoint, a little bit more about you from your college choices. Looking back at that, would you have done anything differently in your Jay? I know, being the decathlon type of athlete, would you have looked a little bit deeper into being an Olympic decathlon athlete? And you, BJ, would you have looked a little deeper into being a basketball pro?
Great question.
Well, I continued training like a decathlete in the off seasons. So
Yeah.
you just never know, about whether you get to play or not. That's sometimes not up to the individuals. It's up more to ownership and coaching. So I did continue that, and my dad coached his whole life, and so I grew up as a kid that was always into sports. That's all I ever really did. That hunting and fishing, and doing that, working out with the ranchers and everything else. So that was me, and that was my life. And so when I ended up being able to, really know that I could make it in the NFL, then I really kind of stopped training, doing the pole, high jumping, throwing javelin, stuff like that. I still trained like a track athlete, but I never did compete anymore after that.
Okay. BJ, how about you? Basketball?
Well, actually, I probably had a different mindset. Sports was actually a means to an end. I did it as a kid because my mom told me, "You get your butt in jail, don't you call me." So athletics got to be one of the staples that kept me grounded and out of trouble. So I really didn't have that ambition of being a professional athlete in a sense. But the only consideration that I really looked forward to was that college thing, because I wanted to get that education. We hadn't had anybody in the family who had been through college from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
sir.
that was my driving force. Athletics was never a priority until I got to. Well, actually, it was never a priority until my second year in the NFL. I had no idea my first year we were one game away from the Super Bowl when we played Minnesota the last game until the next year. Then I had to slap myself to find out what was going on.
Wow.
It's
But I
sometimes
never. Yeah, go ahead.
sometimes surreal when you find yourself on the field and you look around and it's the Super Bowl. I
Yeah.
know my first time out there. I'm going to tell you guys this, and everybody's eyebrows are going to go up. I was in Super Bowl III. Yeah, I saw the eyebrows go up. Yeah, but I was out there
Legendary Super Bowl.
with Johnny Unitas and Joe Namath and all of those characters revolving around there. And I looked up, and a certain kind of feeling kind of goes over your body once you realize this is the Super Bowl. There's 100
Yes.
million people,
Yes.
watching you. You better get your act together. So I kind of snapped out of it. Did my little thing as a snot-nosed rookie back then. I think I was in my second year back then. But you're right. It's kind of a surreal surrounding. You kind of have to, like you did, kind of have to slap yourself and realize where you are as you go forward. Okay.
And guys, real quick, Preston, he never played a down of college football either. So, I mean, you guys played college football and got in that feeling. But Preston came in, basketball player, and went directly to the Colts and made an impact there. I mean, what a player to come, not play any college football, and then make a 14-year career in the NFL back then. That's pretty impressive.
Now you guys know why he's my co-host, right?
Yeah.
That's
No,
right.
You stop that. I would say it anyways, Preston. You stop it.
Everyone needs that.
Everybody needs it every once in a while.
Absolutely. But it's true. But it is true.
Well, I appreciate that. You're a good man.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you
Yes,
for saying that and recognizing that. Okay, where was I? I lost on my place. Okay, we got to high school, college.
Yes.
Now we're talking about the pros. First round draft choice,
Yes.
sixth round draft choice. Jay comes to the Cowboys through Plan B, free agency. Those were the guys who brought him here. Number
sir.
84. Is that the number you had all through high school, college, Jay?
I was number 15 in high school.
That's right. You were a quarterback. Couldn't have that big a number.
And then 84 was my college number.
Nice.
BJ, you had 89 all the way through. I think you said that earlier, right?
Yes, then I think our first year I probably wore 88, but I think it was 89 all the way through the deal.
And that's perfect since Mike Ditka was your coach for so many years. He was big number 89, coaching big number 89. There he is right there. Wow.
And that's the Mike had retired the year before, I believe, and became a assistant coach under Tom Landry. And that was your first year here in Dallas. What a great thing to have. This is the first tight end to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Iron Mike.
That's who you were working under, and, of course, the great Tom Landry. Those two guys together, I'm assuming, BJ, that they were an influence on you as a Dallas Cowboy and football player in the National Football League.
Yeah, well, my basic influence I got from both of those guys is the familiarity of the game, how the game is played, what intensity you need for the game. And needless to say, Mike had one of the greatest intensive attitudes you could have as a football player.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Really high strung, and I think we had our maybe one or two little
skirmish.
The
Yeah, I think I saw a couple of your skirmishes with you, Coach Ditka.
And I really appreciate it, Mike, because he had that fire in him, man, that
Yes, he
I hadn't
did.
seen in many people before, and he didn't have any problems in telling you what was on his mind in any form or fashion of communication that he could find. But Mike was a really good guy, coach for me as well. I don't know about the other guys, but
Yeah.
we had a good understanding. I had a good understanding about all the coaches that I've been coached by. That is, you tell me what you want to do, leave me alone.
Everson Wells, I heard Everson say, Billy Joe, real quick, Everson said that you were able to talk to Tom Landry and he really respected what you had to say, even being tight end and doing that, not being quarterback or anything like that, but even still, Coach Landry cared so much what you had to say and what you thought, and that's what Everson said, and that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, well, and I guess that's why one year he appointed me as one of the co-captains for the team for
Yes,
that
sir.
particular season, and we had a good relationship. I mean, I say good relationship. We had a good understanding. I understand that, and my primary objective when I came to the Cowboys is to make myself familiar with the people around me, because I don't get, X's and O's are just that's standard. But make myself with the available to the people around me and get to know how they work, how they like to work, when they like to work, how the determination is, attitude, and those type of things. Therefore, if I noticed any boards I had to be in a place where a guy had a different type of format, then I had to try to adjust to that deal to make things for the team. And I'm always considered a team player. I think I told Coach Landry, Coach, you will never hear me you will never have me come to you and say, Coach, put me in the game. Now, hey, I have no control of when I play, but I do have control on how I play. So once you put me in the game,
Yes,
that's
sir.
me. Everything is on me. And I can't say, well, Tom didn't tell me this or Tom didn't tell me that. And occasionally he did. But that was the primary reason. Just do my job. Take care of what
Well,
needs to take
42
care of.
touchdowns. You had 42, and I'm so sorry that I interrupted you on that, Billy Joe. I apologize. I just wanted to talk about those 42 touchdowns, which was a record until Jason Witten, when it became more of a passing type offense. You did that when it was a lot more running, and Tony Dorsett, and still got those 42 touchdowns. Very impressive, Billy Joe.
Well, both of you guys played 11 seasons. I don't know if you knew that about each other, but 11 seasons. That included the 5 for Jay in the St. Louis Cardinals. Let me just read a quick.
First, before you go to that, let me just interject this one thing. We talk about tight ends and the play. The difference between myself and Jay is Jay played the entire game. He didn't have to shuttle plays in and out of the game.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
I played 11 seasons and only had one season that I didn't run plays in from the sideline.
Yeah.
And that position as tight end averaged pretty close to about 50 passes a year. And I only had probably half of those.
Well, that's just about right, too, because in 11 seasons, BJ, you had 267 catches. In 11 seasons with Jay had 422. And as you just said, that's the reason why.
That's half of Jay's deal.
That's what I say, just about half. For you had BJ 35, 65 total yards, 3,565 total yards. Jay had 4,600 total yards. Nathan just stated you had 41 touchdowns, which was a record until Jason Witten in 2012.
Oh, 42.
Jay had 4,600 total yards, a little bit better. Jay had 30 touchdowns. Both of you guys went to 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And they were great in the playoffs. Both of them, Preston, were great in the playoffs when it counted the most.
These were the go-to guys. These were the red zone guys. These were the touchdown guys. These were the guys who blocked defensive guys so that Emmitt Smith, Tony Dorsett, Preston Pearson, don't forget about number 26.
We don't.
Was out there either catching passes or running the football because I was there. But congratulations to both of you guys. And that's why I say a lot of people don't know these numbers. And that's why I say you are unsung greats that people ought to know more about and hear more about and don't. Okay, I've got my piece out there. Retirement, injuries, okay? Both of you probably went through, in 11 seasons, a number of injuries. Is that retirement, as you're looking at Billy Joe at his press conference upon his retirement, looking good?
Smooth.
BJ was always looking good. I believe that's a picture of his family when he was at retirement.
Family.
Is that your family at retirement, BJ? Yes.
Yeah, that's about it. There was Sean, who on the left, who was the oldest, and Christopher in the middle, who was the youngest.
And that's your beautiful wife, still.
Wonderful picture, Billy Joe.
And still a little celebration going on right there, I believe.
They're looking smooth wherever they're going, Preston. They're looking smooth.
BJ's always looking smooth, man.
Dang.
That's his total game, being smooth.
Lovely too, that wonderful day. Yes.
And here's Jay after retirement. A cowboy is a cowboy is a cowboy. That is a cowboy right there, folks.
Yep.
Yellowstone.
Yes, sir. Yep. And I think Jay, yes. Yeah, Jay did a charity event with Jimmy, who played in Yellowstone and won a charity tournament, if I'm not wrong, Jay, in horse cutting. Is that correct?
Well, there's a shot of it right there.
The NCHA during the futurity, which is when they have, that's basically their Super Bowl of cutting.
Wow.
The 3-year-old year, and it's the first time they've really ever been showing them horses. And they've always had a celebrity cutting, and one year they had the cast of Yellowstone. A lot of them came out and competed in it, and I was teamed up with Jimmy. And he was so fun. He's from New York, and he'd never been on a horse, and then all of a sudden he gets on that Yellowstone. He had to learn to ride, and he did a great job. He really.
He did. It didn't look like it was his first time. That was really good that he picked it up like that, Jay.
With those last two shots there, including this one, is a shot. I believe this is a part of what you do now, and that's ranching. Is that correct, Jay?
Correct. Yeah, that was when I had the ranch up in Nebraska. That was my ranch up there.
So you've
and
had
your wife's amazing at that.
You've had the word cowboy basically throughout your life. You are a cowboy. You were with the Cowboys. You're a cowboy right now. Look at the hat, Yellowstone. That is pure Yellowstone right there.
Walt Garrison was real.
That's true. That is true.
Just a pinch between your cheek and gums, as he always would say.
All right, we got to go to a quick question. We don't have a whole lot of time left here. But, guys, we have a part of our show, a segment that we call Ask a Pro. And people who are watching send to Nathan, to us, a question they would like to ask our special guest. And we have a gentleman who has a question that both of you can answer.
Yes.
Nathan?
You got it. And we want to just thank everybody right now that writes into our show. And make sure you like Preston's page, and make sure, because that's where it's done live, so his YouTube, his Facebook, so make sure you keep up with us. And on this segment of Ask the Pro for Jay Novacek and Billy Joe Dupree, what was it like playing for such legendary coaches like Tom Landry, Jimmy Johnson, and Barry Switzer? And this is from Andre Ponce from Prescott, Arizona.
All right, Billy Joe, age before beauty. Let's go.
All right. Well, mine's going to be short because I only had one coach, and that was Tom Landry.
Yeah.
And as I indicated before, the relationship with Tom was more based for all players, was more based on an understanding of his background. He didn't understand that his background being a ex-military bomber pilot, that his primary concerns were dedication, discipline, and commitment. Then you had no clue, and that's what he thrived on.
And religion. Tom was
and
very big on religion.
Well, since you mentioned that, let me just run this by you right quick. And I had 2 meetings with Tom, and the last one, 2 major meetings. The last one I called to let him know I was retired. So I get in there, and I'd been sick over a while because we had bad weather, and I had the flu, and I figured if I went in there and was sick, he'd try to talk me into staying for a while. So I go in there and make a visit. Coach, I'm tired, blah, 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 blah. He said, well, okay, what can I do for you? I said, of course, I'm ready to retire. So to make sure I stayed retired, I tried to use the words he influenced us with. I said, Coach, he said we got 3 major things that we have to deal with. That's God, family, and football.
Right.
Even though it may not look like I've been close to God, I have, because I was born in a Baptist household and went to a Catholic school for 8 years. So, hey, how could you not? And the other one is God, family, and football. And I think I've done a decent job in football, but I don't think I've done, it's about time for me to spend some time with my family. And he said, and the last word that he had in that conversation after I made that comment was, says, good luck. I said, okay, thanks. Because he
Tom.
was not a guy with many words.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Coach, I really appreciate having the opportunity to play for you. I hope things go well. And to seal it, if anything ever happens to the guy, just give me a call. I'll be willing to come back. I know he wouldn't want to do that. There's only the years that he coached, there's only been 2 players that he's asked to come back to play. One was a linebacker, and the other was a kicker.
Wow.
All right, Jay.
I didn't know that. I did not.
Jay. Can't beat that.
It was, Coach, when he come from the Cardinals, it was Jimmy's second year, and you hear all the horror stories and everything, and all of a sudden you're thinking, what's this guy like? How is he going to coach?
Yeah.
All the pressure they put on everybody, and they weren't any good, and this, that, and the other thing. But it ended up, being he really understood how to get into people's minds.
Yeah.
It really, when you go cut somebody and
motivation is what that's called.
Sure.
Yeah. And so, that was the one thing I took from Jimmy more than anything. One time he said, it doesn't matter how many great plays you make, but it does matter how many bad plays. And
wow.
When he said that, I was like, you know what? That is so true. And
Yep.
I've always been the type of player I've always wanted to be very coachable, and I always wanted to be able to not make mistakes. And so when that happened, when he said that, I was like, wow, that's even more true than what I was even portraying as what I wanted to be as a player. Mm-hmm. And so that was very, very special to be able to be coached by him. And then, of course, like I said, I was an OU fan. I wanted to play for Barry in college. And
that must have been awesome to do that if that was your favorite team to do that. That's pretty neat, Jake.
It really was, and the relationship with Jimmy and I was, I would always go up to him, and he didn't talk to me very much. I mean, I would actually try to see if I could get a minute. I'd go up to him and I'd talk to him like before practice. I'd try to talk to him for like a minute, see if we can get a minute today. And he wouldn't. He would kind of walk off, and it was no big deal. That's just the way he was with me. And it was kind of funny. And then
why do you think that was? Why do you think he was that way with you?
I think he understood who he needed to talk to and how he needed to talk to them. And with what his comment was about making mistakes, he
Right.
knew I wasn't going to be the guy to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't a big deal to him. He just said, just leave Jay alone, let him
Yeah,
do what he
yeah,
does.
I think so.
Other players,
That makes
I mean, he
sense.
had on him constantly. But yeah, I talked to Barry more the very first day I talked to him as a Dallas Cowboy head coach than I did with Jimmy in 4 years. And
Wow.
and then after I retired, it's kind of funny. After I retired, then I love Barry. Him and I are still great friends. But after I retired, Jimmy's retired, and he was down in Florida and had his boat and everything, liked to go fishing. I was hosting a show on ESPN2, where it's a hunting and fishing show, and so he knew that, and we happened to be at the same event together, and Jimmy came up to me and was like, "Oh, Jay, yeah, I watched your show. You need to do a show out on my boat. Let's get, come down to Florida." I walked away and he kept talking. It was the exact opposite of what it was in football.
Yeah, it came back on him. Yeah.
Did you go on his boat? Did you go on his boat, Jay? Did you go on his boat on that trip?
I never did get anything set up to do a show out there.
Gotcha.
It would have been.
All right, guys, it went so fast. That was an
Man, that's
hour
too fast.
worth of show, and we still didn't get to a lot of things that I wanted to get to in terms of what do you think about the Cowboys. We talked a little bit about the NIL and that approach. What do you think of the Cowboy tight ends? We didn't even give it a chance to even talk about present-day Dallas Cowboys,
Let's do it again.
might be good. And we might, as Nathan just suggested,
Let's do it again.
ask you to come back
Please,
maybe
guys.
sometimes. Keep it on your calendar, thinking about it. Maybe we can get you to come back and join us
Please.
again on the Champions and talk about the Cowboys of today. Hopefully, they'll get their act together and hopefully be able to get into the playoff picture.
Yes.
We say it like that.
Well, Dak needs to run that football. I know we got to go, but for some reason we need to, like Purdy did with his legs. For some reason, Dak is not extending plays like he used to, and we'll get into that next time. But
Yes,
we need to get him doing that.
We'll have to talk about all of that in terms of Cowboys and what they need to do. Hopefully these guys will come back and we can join in and have a good time again. Appreciate it, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
One thing, okay?
Yes.
Bottom line, these guys got to win at least 8 games in order to make the playoffs.
I think so, too. Do they have 8 games?
Well, we'll see.
They'd have to win out. We'll see. All right, we got to go. Thank you again, guys. The
Thank you so much.
unsung Dallas Cowboy tight end greats. I hope you enjoyed it. We've got to go. My producer is telling me he's got to get out of here. I want to thank my producer, Trey Giles.
Thanks, Trey.
Did I say Giles? Did I say it
I think
correct?
you did. Yeah,
Okay,
I thought so.
okay. To the studio, thank you. You can follow us on social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, Twitter, audio on TikTok, Amazon, Spotify, Google, and Apple Pods. And for my co-hosts, we both say to you guys, here we go. Next time.
Here we go.